Good morning. Thank you for joining us for Start the Day on this Friday, the 15th of January. As you can see, we are outside in the garden this morning. It's a bitterly cold, but also a beautifully snowy morning. And we thought for those of you in other parts of the country who've been joining in with Start the Day, you get the chance to, if you've not been able to enjoy the snow yourself, it's just very cold, a chance to see the snow here. I'm not sure, it's beginning to thaw already, isn't it, this morning? But we're very aware. Again, today, so much has happened in the past week. It's been an incredibly challenging time for many people across the country for all sorts of reasons with the coronavirus, and once more we'll be holding them in our prayers this morning. But we're coming to read another psalm.
We're looking at Psalm 15 today, and it begins with this simple yet probing question, which is asked of God in two ways. And it says, "Who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain?" And throughout the Bible, and especially in the Psalms, being in the presence of God is the essence of our faith. And this is what we're made for, to know God, to walk with him and to draw near to him.
And so this takes us really to the very heart of worship. And what I love about the psalm is the way it sort of it shows us the other side of worship. Sometimes we think of worship as something where we're inviting God to come into the very moment in which we're present with him, whether that's in song or worshiping God through our lives day by day. But this psalm reminds us that of the other side of worship, where God is the host. He's the one who invites us to draw near. And we need to hold those two parts, I think, together when we think about the fullest expression of worship as we're shown it in the Bible. And of course, the invitation to come near to God, the confidence with which we can respond to this question is on the basis of the work of Jesus. So we're going to read it this morning.
Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? The one whose way of life is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks with truth from their heart, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbour, and casts no slur on others.
Who despises a vile person, but honours those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts, and does not change their mind, who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things will never be shaken.
And when I read this, it could make me feel very unworthy and to draw near to God and sort of, how am I going to do this? And to draw near to him and to be in his presence. But it's much more about having a heart that's longing to keep in step with God, which, like David, was the reason God was drawn to him.
Yeah, and because you get that moment where we're shown how God chose David, which was because he was a man after God's own heart, someone who yearned for God's heart. And the reference to blameless, it's not how we often understand the word blameless. I mean, if it was on the basis of having to have a blameless heart, then no one could draw near. In fact, it would contradict what is said in Psalm 14. But it's the idea of a heart that's open to God, a heart that's seeking, as Sarah was saying, to sort of walk in God's ways, and being determined to stay on that path and allow God sometimes to bring us back onto it. And I think the psalm also, as we were reading it last night, we were thinking actually of all the different parts of the condition of our heart, the heart that God looks for. It just the sense that with the stress and the pressure and the strain that all of us are living with in different ways, and some in very particular ways through these past months, that this is quite a good, as it were, heart check, to go in and to look at the different things that God says are important for those who draw near to him in worship, and actually to notice and observe what may be happening to our heart through this time, and in the end, in recognizing maybe where there are things that we need to acknowledge and ask for God's help to change, knowing that God is the expert at being able to transform broken and hard and cold hearts. So if we notice some things in our hearts and in our feelings and attitudes, sometimes under enormous pressure, and we're not so happy about those. Maybe those who are homeschooled at the moment are feeling some of that pressure, but there are those working on the front lines and intense pressure in other ways, supporting loved ones. As we notice what that's doing to us, an encouragement just to bring our hearts to God, knowing that He can go on transforming and changing our hearts. We can trust that to Him. And that brings us right through to that last verse,
the
which
final
you
word,
particularly
which,
loved.
yeah, I also have the final word about the stability and security, that we know even while everything is shaken, whoever does these things will never be shaken. And it's not that we need to be perfect and we're going to get them all right, but we just know that security and stability is in Him when we look to Him and follow Him. Yeah.
So we're going to pray this morning with this psalm in mind. So let's take a moment to turn to prayer. And gracious God, we want to thank You that however we feel things are in our hearts at the moment, our will, our emotions, all the things that just can cause us to feel like we're on a roller coaster through these days. We want to pray that You will continue Your work in our hearts. We thank You for the work of Jesus, and that we can bring our hearts to Him. And Jesus, we thank You that You are the one who is able to change hearts, and You can turn hard hearts into soft hearts. And You're able to take that brokenness and mend broken hearts. And so for anyone today who is brokenhearted and who feels their heart just feels very cold, would You bless them, and would You continue Your work in their lives? And we ask this to the glory of Your name. Amen.
Amen.
So thank you for joining us this morning. It is quite cold, so we're looking forward to getting back inside. Warm cup of tea this morning, but I hope you've been able to enjoy the snow as it's been laying here in Southall. And whatever you're doing today and over the course of this weekend, may you also know God's blessing.